Hello and welcome to the MenTell Health Podcast, a podcast for everyone to talk about mental health and everything that comes with it. My name is Tim, and today we will be talking about me. Before we begin, this time 2 disclaimers. First, I am not a mental health professional in any shape or form. I'm just a man sharing his journey with his own mental health. And a second disclaimer, this episode will deal with the topic of death. So if that is something you do not want to listen to or do not feel willing or able to engage with, then this is probably not the episode for you. Well, with no further ado, let's talk about my biggest problem. Hello, welcome back to the MenTell Health Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Tim. I am 32. No, I'm 33 by now. Wow, time's running away. I have in the last 3 episodes given an overview over my own journey regarding mental health, and in this episode I will be talking about something that has been with me ever since I was 4 years old. Has been a bit of a Damocles sword hanging over my head for the biggest part of my adult life, and was something that contributed massively towards my SpongeBob Monopoly meltdown. If you don't know what I mean by that, then maybe listen to episode 1 after this. The thing that has been with me ever since I was 4 years old is the theme of death. You might be wondering now, wait, 4? How can a 4-year-old be struggling with death at all? When I was 4 years old, my father, who was a alcoholic and abusive towards my mother, I have no recollection if he ever was to me, committed suicide. And that was the first time I knew that people will go away and never come back. And it was also the first time that the concept of death was something, that became a topic for me. And I remember that shortly after, not too much longer, but I'm gonna say 6 or 7 latest, I realized that I would be dying. No, that I would be dead at some point in the hopefully very, very distant future. And because I was young and a child and I was so far away, and when you're a kid, even though you might have the understanding of that you die at some point, it seems so far away. You just push the thought aside, and that's what I did as well. So until I was possibly in my early 20s, it didn't really bother me much. It was not a big thing, but neither was the suicide of my father, which was something that I've never really, up until that point, appropriately dealt with. For me, I was always very mad at him for doing this, and I was always very mad at him for leaving me, for abandoning me, which contributed to my idea that when you're dead, there's nothing. You don't see your loved ones again. It's gone, which was something that I will be talking in a minute about again. So I pushed the thought of dying, and I pushed the thought of my father's suicide very far down, very deep down, and only looked at it with negative views. By now, a few years later, and with some therapy of my own and some struggles of my own, I can see that my father was a complex person. There's always more to a story than just, he couldn't be bothered with me anymore, so that's why he just left. He was obviously struggling. He was in pain, desperate, maybe couldn't live with his alcoholism, with his debt that I inherited. Thank you very much again. And just, that was his way of escaping all of this. And obviously this means that from a very young age, also the topic of suicide has been in my life. But even in my deepest states of depression, it never truly became an option for me, because there's obviously with people that struggle a lot with depression and have severe depression, suicidal thoughts are common and sometimes feel like they're the only way out. Yes, so suicide was never really a topic for me, because I could never fathom that anyone wanted to just disappear, to be gone, for nothing to exist, because that's what death was and maybe still is to me. I will explain what I mean by that in the course of this episode. But for me, even when I am at the lowest point, even when I think everything is completely terrible and there's only sadness and despair and self-hatred and nothing that I do is correct, nobody loves me, nobody even wants to be around me, and I don't want to be around anyone, but I do want to be around everyone, and there's so many contradictory feelings. And as bad as they get, I never really want to not be here anymore. So that may have been something that contributed to my determination to get better, to find help, to get help, and to heal, because I didn't want to feel this way anymore. But obviously dying wasn't the way out, so I needed to deal with it. Now, going back to why is death such a big topic? As I said, it wasn't until my early 20s when I've started to have trouble sleeping, because every time I went to bed, and I suppressed a lot of this in my late 20s and only realized it once I started therapy again, was that I was lying in bed on the verge of falling asleep and then thinking, well, what if I don't wake up? This is not cool. I do want to wake up, but what if I don't wake up? What will happen? Will there be nothing? Will I just disappear? Or will there be something? And in my, I started to do a lot of wishful thinking and imagined this genie, usually in the form of the character voiced by Robin Williams from Aladdin, the Disney film Aladdin, would just appear and grant me 3 wishes. And one of my wishes would always be that there better be an afterlife, because just the idea of no longer existing was awful. It was just unbearable. But I could suppress it still, because I was young still, and I was studying, I had fun, I was, not really troubled or burdened by my already quite desperate financial situation, but, it was the beginning of my life. Surely stuff will improve and get better. So what's the point about worrying? And what also helped was that I was, smoking, drinking, taking drugs, partying. So I didn't really, apart from these frequent nights where I just wished and then eventually went to sleep, it didn't trouble me that much. Moving forward a few years and towards my late 20s, and this, as I've mentioned in the last episode, this dooming 30 coming up, because 30 was the number. I don't know if I heard of many people who've struggled the same, but only in my circle, so I do not know if it's something that everyone struggles with at heart. But for me, 30 was a massive number. 30 was the number after which you are an adult. You have to have your shit together. You have to have started some sort of family, be financially secure, know what you want from life, know where you want to go, have goals, and have already achieved some of those goals, and have your shit together, and be a completely formed person. And if you haven't done that by then you're a failure. But also, if you have done that, then there's nothing afterwards. so 30, that's it. And then afterwards you just have that boring life, the boring adult life where you have kids, go to work, 40 hours a week, go on your standard holidays, watch telly every evening, and then just wait until the inevitable death will come. So for me, 30 meant both I was a failure because, on the day of the SpongeBob Monopoly, I was 29. So I knew I wasn't going to achieve any of those goals, and I will get into these goals in a minute. So I wasn't going to do that. So I was going to turn 30, and then my life would be over. So I might as well die. So death was there again. The constant companion. The constant reminder that we are all just materialistic beings with chemicals that control what we're feeling, what we're seeing, or not what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're saying, what we're deciding, who we are. And there's nothing more to it. And then once we die, there will be nothing. And this nothingness, even though obviously it is impossible for us to imagine what nothingness is, to me it was just being in a box that is pitch black, dark, and there will be no sound. And that is eternity. And even if it's not in a box, even if there's nothing, then there's nothing for eternity. It's just, the idea was so terrible and overbearing for me that I didn't exist. If we, go according to science, which I do. I do believe in science. Well, there's not really believing in it. I mean, science just tells us what they can observe, and I love physics, I love astronomy, so I do subscribe to all of that. So the idea that the universe is 13 billion years old, and then I was born, gonna live for 80, 90 hopefully years, and then I'll be gone for the rest of the billion years that the universe is going to exist, at least 5 billion of which will be the solar system. Yeah, so it seems like, what the fuck? That's not fair. How can there be so much time for the stars, for everything else, and I have to exist for such a brief glimpse of time? And what will I miss? And why can't I be with my loved ones? And why can't I achieve more? Why can't I be more? Why would there be nothing forever? Forever. And so soon, because we're going to turn 30, so it will happen any moment. And you hear of people that, suddenly go to sleep and die, which then, made me not being able to sleep anymore, because every time I went to bed, starting from that day, and if I'm honest with myself, even a bit before that, but that's when I was really aware, every time I went to bed, sleep was synonymous with death. So I might as well not wake up. I may never wake up. So I couldn't sleep. But because, when life ends so quickly and there's so little time in time itself, then what's the point? Why do we need to do anything? Why do we need to achieve anything? Why does even anything matter? So not only could I not sleep, I also couldn't do anything with my days because it was pointless anyways, because death is just pointless. And all these goals that I didn't achieve, I didn't have a job. I was still doing my master's degree, and it's taking me 5 years to do my master's, which is typically in Germany 2 years. And I wasn't financially secure, nowhere near it. I was in debt, and I still am, a student debt. And I had a partner, but wasn't anywhere near having children. We lived in a flat. We didn't have the house that you're supposed to have. I didn't have a car. Still don't. I hadn't been to all these places. I hadn't experienced all these events people were supposed to have experienced. I didn't feel smart enough. I didn't feel educated enough. I didn't feel opinionated enough. I didn't feel able to be, being able to argue certain scientific points or scholarly points that I wanted to be able to. Yeah, and I didn't feel like I mattered at all, because I was nothing. I didn't achieve any of those things. Nobody cared about my opinion. And then I would just die. And that'd be it. And then nobody would remember me, because I didn't achieve anything. So yeah, that was a lot. That was quite something. And in my despair, in my depressive state, in my anxious state, I went deep, because when something bothers me or when something interests me, also it's positive as well, but I'm someone, I need to know everything there is to know about it. And then I spent weeks and months afterwards just reading anything I could about the topic. I read anything about what is consciousness. I read everything I could about both sides of the argument. So what's the argument for we will just vanish? Our consciousness will go into nothingness. And why is that maybe not bad? And why would it not even matter to us? And I read everything about maybe there is something else, about spirituality, about near-death experiences, and the science that, or research people doing in that department, and looked at all the evidence that was available. And I spent months just doing that instead of doing my master's, instead of working on anything that I wanted to achieve by 30. I spent at least half the year of my last 20 years, of my last year in my 20s, looking into what is death, what will happen, where's the answer? Come on, someone out there must know the answer. There's 7 billion people on the planet. There have been hundreds of billions doing nothing else but worrying about death. So where's the answer? And of course there is no answer. I mean, spoiler alert, but nobody knows, because nobody's really been dead for a long time and came back and told us, well, this is what happens. There have been accounts of people that, were clinically dead, that have experienced nothing, that just were, conscious at the one moment and then conscious again the next moment, and hours, if not days, have passed in between. And there have been people that have been clinically dead, or at least brain dead, that have experienced whole worlds in between. And I'm not in any position to say which one is true, and I don't think anyone is. But that's my opinion. If you have another opinion, feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to learn. Yeah, but what also came about in that research, which really baffled me more than not having an answer, is that so many people didn't bother. There were so many people that, at least from what they said, they were really content. They were like, well, it happens. What happens? I can't change it. And I couldn't believe that people didn't spend every hour of every day thinking about it. That they were just happy living their life. That they were just, okay, well, this is the time that was given to me and I'm going to do what I want with it. And then that some people chose to use that time to do nothing. And other people chose it to, be mean and bad to other people. And some people chose it to shape the world in however they see fit. And some people did great and amazing things, and some people did really awful and terrible things with the time given. So it's such a complex topic. So yeah, I was confused because on the one hand, yes, there were lots of people out there that were looking into it, and they were just as fascinated and I was very happy when I read that, just as afraid of it as I was. But there were even more people that weren't afraid, or at least didn't say they were afraid. They just said, well, even if I don't exist anymore, that's fine. I won't know. I don't care. And I do with my time what I want, and it's all cool. And other people that believed firmly in an afterlife and were, content then as well, because, well, why would you bother if something happens and and you're 100% sure that there will be, or at least 80% sure. Yeah, and none of them gave me comfort, because obviously you can't, or at least I couldn't just take someone else's opinion as mine, someone else's conviction as mine. And that's why for the majority of the year I spent being afraid of going to sleep, being afraid of sometimes when I exercised, I started exercising again and my heartbeat went too fast. I thought, oh, maybe this is a heart attack, which then obviously made me more anxious. And I spent quite a lot of time researching and not living, and beating down on myself for not being able to A, let it go, B, finding an answer, and C, getting the shit done I wanted to get done before I turned 30. Nothing of the things I wanted to get done I did get done by 30, because I didn't actually want to get any of them done. And this is the revelation I had, which is when I started to finally be able to move away, when I finally was able to move away from this, is I realized, well, for starters, my master's took 5 years because I was working 3 jobs at the same time. I was being severely depressed during that time. I was fighting and struggling with my mental health. I had very little support, both academically and financially. So that was one reason. And my journey is my journey, and other people's goals aren't necessarily my goals. And most important of all, I'm now past 30. I'm now 33. So it's now my 4th year after 30. Third, math difficult. And I'm still here, and I'm still doing great things, and I'm doing even things I would have loved to have done in my 20s and then thought I could never do them, and now I'm doing them. I'm working a job. I'm making projects come true. This podcast, for example. I'm writing a novel. I am working on myself. I'm learning loads of new things because I am, instead of being worried and depressed and not realizing that I was depressed, I am now actively doing things because I want to, because I know that I want to, and I don't care what other people think. Mostly. I still also have quite a lot of things where I unfortunately still care very much about what other people think. That's why it takes me so long to do stuff. But that's also why I need to do the things just even though I don't want to. Like, this episode is not easy. It's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, let's just completely expose myself to the public, to my many listeners, I'm sure, and tell them about my deepest fears, and tell them about the struggle and what I did. I'm not proud of all the hours I've spent researching it, but I'm also not ashamed, because it did take the fear away, because it made me realize I'm not alone, and it also made me realize that despite what everyone says, nobody knows. So there's just as much discontent and disagreement on both sides. So the people arguing that there's nothing, there's people that disagree in that, and there's people that, say there is something, and there's people that disagree with how and what and where, and nobody knows. And while that still bothers me, because, I'm a curious person and I want to know the answers to every question I ever have, and I want to be able to tell people the answers to the questions that they have, because of the mindfulness exercises and the work that I've done on myself, I can now control my fear. I can accept the thoughts that I have. I can accept the fear that I have. And I can look into the future and be like, well, if the goals that I've set for myself I achieve when I'm 70, then I still have achieved them. And then cool, then, because then still have something to look forward to when I'm 70. Yeah, and we are obsessed with this idea that we can only do cool things when we're young. And I was obsessed, and I still sometimes am. I still sometimes look at people that have achieved great and amazing things that I wanted to achieve, see how much younger they are than me, and get sad and frustrated. But then I accept that, and I look at it from a different angle and see, well, they had different opportunities, they had a different journey, they had different paths they went, and I'm talking to me here, you are in a great place right now. Just the other day I was lying in bed, and the previous week I had in a phase of depression, and I was struggling again with the thoughts of, death, this dooming thing. I want to know the answer, and I caught myself ruminating, and I stopped myself. And then when that phase ended and I was lying in bed and just reflecting on where I am, and I thought, well, I am happy. I am happy with where I am. I am 30. No, I think I was still 32 at that time, almost 33. I'm in a place in my life where I can have a day job, where I, earn the money that I need at the moment and follow my passion projects, maybe turn them into a job at some point, which would be great, because I've also learned that I don't like having a boss. As much as my boss is nice, I just like to structure my own days, and I can't do that in the job. So that's why I do other projects, writing, doing creative projects, where I can maybe at some point not have to do that anymore. And then if that's with 40, well, then still great. Then I still have maybe 40, 50 years, if I'm lucky, because I'm trying to be healthy as well, where I can enjoy that. And if not, well, then I still had that project. I still did things. I still had a good time doing them, because I do them because they're also fun. I like them. And if they don't turn into something, then that's also cool. And if I don't get to do the things that other people have done, then fine. I don't have to. I do my things. And I can be sad about that, but I can also be, and I am sad about it, of course. I would be lying if I said, well, when I was 20, I applied for film school and I didn't get in. And because I was not able to deal with the rejection and I wasn't able to use that for something else, I never went to film school again, never applied again. And I would love to do films and I would love to direct. And I would be lying if I said, well, I'm okay with that didn't happen. And I would be lying if I said that I wouldn't be sad that didn't happen. But I'm okay with it, because I've had other things in my life that were great that I may not have had if I'd gone that way. And the same is true with my fear of death. I am happy that I had it, because it made me reflect on my life. It made me engage with topics that were really, really uncomfortable and still are. And it made me stop smoking easily. Not easily, but I had never had so far, fingers crossed, I never had I've never had a relapse in smoking, because I was so afraid of dying that the idea of smoking, something that is, proven to kill, rather than do anything else to your body, it just hurts your body in every shape or form. So I just stopped, and I loved smoking. I loved it. I rolled my own cigarettes, and I loved the ritual. I loved how sociable it is when you smoke outside and you meet people. I've met so many people smoking, and I love the ritual and the habit, and it calmed me down, and I've gained so much weight since I've stopped. But I'm doing something against that too, because I know that, overweight smoking, much better. But it was a good engine fueling my journey to stop smoking. And I had 3 days that were really horrible, that were full of withdrawal symptoms. But then it was done. And I have touched one cigarette once at a party, and I didn't like it. And that was it. And I still miss smoking, but not the smoke, because I didn't like it, but I miss the habit. I miss the ritual, and I miss the sociability. But there's other ways you can do that. So it's okay. I don't plan on going back to smoking, but I'm also not pressuring myself and saying, well, if you ever smoke again, then that just shows that you're not truly afraid, and you're a liar, and you don't commit, because that's not helping anyone. We need to be kind to others and kind to ourselves. That's something that I believe in firmly, and I don't succeed. I am by far not perfect, but it's something that I'm trying to achieve. And yeah, so I have, because of all the work I've done, I have started to accept, yes, I will die. There will be a moment, there will be my last moment on this planet, in this existence, conscious, whichever it is. I do not know. I do care, but I do not know. And I don't have the answer, and I won't have it until then. Or maybe I will never have it, if you believe the materialistic view that there is nothing that comes after death, because we are only biological beings, and once the brain shuts off, there's nothing. If you believe there's more, then we will know the answer. I don't believe in anything, which is to say that I still am unsure and I have arguments for both. So there's not one firm conviction that I have now about death, but I'm also And that is the most important thing that I've taken away from all of this. I don't need to know every answer. I don't need to be in control of everything. I can just let things happen. Yes, and if you've made it till here, then you've listened to me rambling on about a very difficult topic for me. I thank you very much for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring or upsetting or infuriating. If it was, please let me know. But also let me know what you feel, what you think. Has death been a problem to you? Have you struggled in any shape or form because of your mental health with the topic? Or has the topic made you struggle with your mental health? As always, you can message me on Instagram, email me, or use the anonymous contact form on the website. And if you like the podcast, I would be ever so grateful if you could give it a positive review and rating in whatever podcast app you listen to and where it is possible, because not at all possible, because it really helps. And if you want to support me, there's ample ways on my website, or by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. Until then, I hope to hear you next time. Well, no, again, I hope you hear me next time. Always sounds weird to say, but anyways, I hear you